Well, hello, friends. Here we are again. This is Sharon. I'm Steve, and you are you, and we are the Oneness Project. All of us together, that is. Um, our last message, we had, Jesus, it was, we had some very interesting views, and one of the things that I think came to us as we were doing all of this is one of the things that we probably haven't defined maybe as well as we could have is we use the word peace a lot. And well, what exactly are we talking about when we're talking about peace? What kind of peace are we referring to? I mean, I felt peace at a spa. I felt peace sometimes just after I have a good sleep. Is that the kind of peace we're talking about? Or what kind of love? Love is a word we throw around quite a bit too. Love can mean a lot of things to a lot of people, but what exactly are we referring to when we talk about this love and this peace? What does it look like? How do we define it? I know in Hebrew or Greek, when they use the word love, there's four different words that they use for love. The one that we're specifically there's philia is one. Eros, of course, is romantic love, but the one that they talk about mostly when referring to God or Jesus, and just in some case us, a lot of cases us, is the word agape love. And what does agape mean to us? What does it mean when we're talking about it? Because that is what we're talking about when we're talking about love. It's not necessarily a simple thing that's just emotional feelies. Feel good. You see a puppy, I love it. That's part of it, but not exactly what we're getting at. Yeah, we talked about this a lot. Would you like to expound upon that, Sharon?
Yes, Steve, like I told you before we got on camera, I have a challenge with the word love. I don't really like the word only because of the way it is perceived in our world. The average person, when they talk about love, it is a conditional type of love. And to me, if it's part love, it's not real love. Okay? And I'm guilty of conditional love myself. So I'd rather use another word when I'm speaking about love. And from the oneness perspective, the word I would replace that with is actually, I would say unconditional love. From a oneness perspective, it's better to say unconditional love so that, we all know what we're talking about, or peace. Because from the oneness perspective, peace equals unconditional love. So yeah, the word love, like you said before, is attached to some emotional feel good experience that oftentimes is not the agape type of love, right? Which is the type of love we're striving for, and that equates to peace or heaven.
Yeah, and I would say maybe that those other experiences of love, like romantic love and so on and so forth, like that, are not even fully experienced without the agape love. It's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So getting into agape love, what exactly are we talking about? There is a verse in that I really identify with when we're talking about this. It's John 4:13-14. And he's talking to the lady at the well, who, without going into all the verses, has had a difficult life. She's had, Jesus somehow knows that she had 5 husbands. which in those days, when that happened, a lot of people don't realize is that when a woman had 4 or 5 husbands, it's almost always because she's barren, that they just disposed of her because she's not able to give them children, so they just let her go. And so she would try to keep on trying, because in those days, a woman without a man is pretty much, in their minds, in that society, screwed. You can't just go get a job or whatever. You have to, you do some pretty awful stuff to make money. So Jesus was talking to this lady, and she said that basically she was taking water back and forth from a well. She probably found a way to do a job. She was probably making a living doing this, constantly going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You can just imagine the weight and everything that this person had to accomplish daily, going back and forth, bringing water for probably somebody fairly wealthy who didn't want to fetch their own water, almost like a slavery. And he said, how would you, basically, everyone who drinks that water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to the life eternal. The woman said, "Sir, give me this water so that I won't be thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water." Okay. There's a lot of wonderful things I get from this.
So the question is, what is that water? We think it's peace.
Yeah, water is what makes us, the term thirsty. It comes from the idea of being dry, or needing something, or wanting to fill yourself with something, right? And this water, whatever it is, we like to think that if we have the peace already, we don't need to go anywhere to get it because it's already there. That's basically what it's saying. And what I love about this verse actually is the girl says, "Sir, give me this water so I won't have to do this anymore." Right? I like that because we know that it's saying this is just a random person, but can be spoken of anybody. Wouldn't anybody want to have a water? If you had to go back and forth with these huge things, have you ever seen that you might see it in encyclopedias, people drawing water and they're carrying these things on their shoulder. They do not look light. It does not look fun, okay? Over time, they've gotten used to it, but I'm pretty sure if you gave them another option, they would drop that pole pretty quick, right? But this is saying is that this person, and I think everybody wants this water. Inside, we know we all want this peace. We don't want to have to go grab it from somewhere. We want it to be right inside of us.
Continually. And that's what that scripture is saying, that woman, she kept going day after day, after day, after day. Isn't that what we do? We try to find different ways to quench that thirst. And the thirst is a thirst for peace and happiness and joy, a thirst for heaven. And we don't know where to find it, so we keep going to that well and getting a little. But Jesus, said, "Listen, I have a way that you don't have to keep coming and going. I can give you that thing you're looking for, that peace."
Yes.
And when I give that to you, you will have that, and that will last you for eternity. And you never have to keep coming to this well to get it. So, for us, we have found that thing that Jesus gave that woman. We know what it is. It is in the oneness message, and we have it now. So even when we get thirsty, we know where to go. We don't have to keep going to that external well. We have the well inside of us. okay, that we can turn to when we're out of peace. And so it's a beautiful thing, you know.
And that, the oneness
Go ahead.
message is that we are truly all one. And we've been talking a lot about offense and being offended by others. Um, it's it's one of the things that show us that we're out of peace is the fact that we are offended. In our culture or people, I think in the world today, I think it's a good time to bring up that story. I knew a person who was working at a place from another country, and they came here, and they were working at a place, and these working with people, and they were working with some people every day. And then one day, some of the people came up to them and said, "Do you not realize that they are bullying you? These other people are bullying you." And the person was like, "No." The person didn't know up to that point that they were being bullied. So these people saying that, or basically telling them, you should be offended because they are bullying you. This is the way of our world. We judge an action as something. We create an action that is a judgment action. This person is acting this way, in which case they don't like me, or it's like an element of separation. Now, why are we really offended by this? Why does it matter if that person likes us or not? Why does it matter? A lot of people say, well, it doesn't matter to me if they like it, but at least don't show it. So you want them to be fake about it? The truth of the matter is the reason why you're upset is because they don't like you. Right?
Yeah. And that person who he was in peace before, but he was taught to learn how to take himself out of peace. He was taught to be offended. Okay. Right. Now I told Steve I had a similar story when I'm from Jamaica, and when I moved here and lived in New York at the time, I was working with some other ladies, and we were in the lunchroom, and these other ladies had the experience in growing up, and maybe in their, from their ancestors, they experienced racism. But I didn't. The way I was raised, I didn't understand what racism felt like. And we were in the lunchroom, and another white lady came into the lunchroom and joined in our conversation for a little bit. And then when the white lady left, the other ladies in the room started to say, "Oh dear, can you believe what she said? I can't believe she was being such a racist with what she said." And I didn't understand what they were talking about, because I didn't pick up on her, whatever she said that was considered racist. I don't think at the time I asked them. I remember just being a little confused. I didn't know what they were talking about. But later on, as I lived in America, I understood what racism meant. Nevertheless, I still didn't see, I have never felt offended by racism. Okay, even though I know what it is, and I know that some people feel that offense by it, and so it really is a matter of perspective. And at the time I didn't even know the oneness message, or I didn't have the oneness understanding, I should say. But nevertheless, racism never affected me. But it could have. I could have learned about racism and be on the lookout for it and be offended every time, but I guess I chose not to. So I guess I'm telling that story to say that, there is a way of escape from being offended. There is a way to hang on to your peace in spite of what others do or say, You don't have to take offense. You can choose not to. And especially when you know the oneness of all, when you know that you are that person in essence, you are that person. You just won't take offense by it. You should talk about the concept of what we talk about flies. When the flies bother us, are we offended by the fly?
Exactly. It can that is something to say. First of all, if you've made it this far, it's a good idea to hit the subscribe and like thing so we can get this algorithm going. Thank you for watching this long. Yes, the fly. This is something we don't. I'm Sharon and I and those that are understanding the oneness message. We don't just walk all through life with this big smile on our face, not being affected by what's going on around us. We have our ups and downs, so to speak, and also there's things that aren't necessarily offenses. Like some things are just annoyances.
Yeah.
There's a difference between being annoyed and being offended. When I'm trying to do something in my life, there are people whose personalities make it very difficult for me to accomplish the things I need to do in my daily duties of what I do. In fact, I didn't bring this up with you, but I'll bring up something. I had an individual person who I was to do a video with, and for a different channel that I have. I like sports, and I do a sports video. So this person, I took a very long time, was very nervous, and was questioning everything we were going to do and how we were going to do it. We had to stop the video and redo it several times over and over and over again. Okay. I love this person because this person is me. I am them, the oneness concept for sure, no doubt about it. However, I will likely never do another video with that person again, you see. And that's not because I don't love them. It's because we do have our daily lives and routines. And like Sharon brought up a good point, like a fly that can get in our way. We don't just sit there and allow the fly to bother us any more than anyone else does. We remove the fly. So this isn't talking about just never being annoyed or never having an issue or feeling sadness or anything like that. It's not talking about that really. It's impossible. It wouldn't make us real or who we are, for one thing. But what it is talking about is quite simple. Being in peace is not removing the things that make you offended. It's not being offended by those things. So what I did in my life up to this point is I would either if something offended me, I would either try to remove it, ignore it, and pretend it doesn't exist, or I guess those are the two things. Be angry with it. That's the other one. And, as a justified anger towards it because that now thing is affecting all aspects of my life. I don't know how many if you've ever said this, but I certainly have. If it wasn't for this person or what have you, I wouldn't be here. So we justify this offense to not accomplishing things that we want to desire in our life, which brings this other thing to what I like to say with what Jesus was saying is, I will give you water that will bring you to an eternal peace, to live in the peace of eternal. When we live in offense, like I just mentioned, we correctly realize that we are not accomplishing what we desire because we say because of that person. What's incorrect about it is we do realize that we're not accomplishing what we desire. That is correct. We're not. But what we incorrectly do not realize, the water that we're not drinking because we keep on going to the well of offense, is that the reason why we're not doing it is not because of the person. It's because of our offense towards the person. The offense towards the person makes us have to keep on drawing water, peace from somewhere else. That can be many things in our lives that are ineffective, which takes the time out of our lives to do the things that we truly desire to do in our life, that we want to do in our life. That may be alcohol, maybe television. It might be these are avoidance mechanisms. What we are offering and what Jesus was offering to that woman in the well is a thought process, belief that has us not be offended in the first place. And because we're not offended in the first place by the actions of others, because we know that we're just like them, we're them, we've done that, been that, we are that person. We can't be offended by what we are or things that we know that are. And we also know that if they knew that we were them and they were us and everybody was all one, they wouldn't be doing that. Because that's not who they truly are.
Yeah.
We are truly Christ. We are truly peace. And that's the other thing I love. That's the thing I love about that story of the well is the lady knows that I want that. And Jesus says, well, you are that. Just believe that you are that, because that's what you are. We are the Christ.
Yeah. She was going to an outside well, and he gave her the real well with his inner peace.
That's right.
You know, even the fly you talk about or the wind that blows, all these things can disturb us. A wind can blow so strong it becomes a tornado for us. And yeah, those things are they're disturbances, and they do disturb your peace. But when the wind passes, peace returns. You know, you don't have to go out somewhere to look for it. It's over. Your peace, peace is always knocking at the door, I like to say. Yeah. It's always there waiting for you to just open the door and let it in. You know, in John 14, verse 27, Jesus says, I don't know who he was talking, but he says, I guess he was talking to his disciples or his followers. He says, peace I leave with you. My peace I give you, not as the world giveth. You know, don't let your heart be troubled. Don't let it be afraid. Take my peace, which is, you know, the peace of the message of oneness, the message, you know, that is a peace that you can fall back on every time without having to go elsewhere looking for it. Yeah. It is a beautiful, beautiful type of peace.
Right. It's agape, and this is what we were talking about. Unconditional love equals
peace. It is love, yes.
We know we're in peace when we have unconditional love, which means we are not offended by anyone. And Paul says this in 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7. He says love, and he's using the word agape here. Remember, I told you there's 4 different words that they use for love, but this is specifically agape, which is unconditional love. And by the way, it says in the Bible that God is love. So God is agape. God is agape. So we are in God, being our God, our divinity, divine, if you however you want to call it, when we are this. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love doesn't envy. Love doesn't boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It's not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Which, by the way, before we go on, if we happen to be entrapped in a religion that says that God is going to judge everybody's rights and wrongs and put people in hell, well, God is apparently love, and Paul says that love keeps no record of wrongs. So I don't know how that's going to happen. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. The funny thing about that verse is it says God does not delight in evil. The word for delight there actually is a word that means aware. It's like he's saying God is not aware of evil. God does not know evil, but rejoices with truth that all things are good, right? It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. The word hope there does not mean like wishing for something. It means hoping meaning living in, I got to find the word. I'll find the word for you. But it means like living above, living in the above. Yeah, always hoping is living in the above. That's basically, without going through all of it, because we're getting long here. But, and also always perseveres. So when we're living in agape, we have this kindness and peace, and we're not living in pride. Pride puts ourselves or above others, and that isn't as a Gehenna, because when we're judging people lower than us, everything becomes very frustrating. Because everybody is now disappointing. You're in a constant state of disappointment when we're doing that. But when we know that they are us and we are them, and all of these things, we're all on the same level. There's no disappointment. There's no disconnection, I suppose. There's no boasting. You're not boasting above other people. They're just in complete peace and no dishonor. Dishonor would be not that you don't get back at people. You don't try to make them hurt because they hurt. That's what this word for dishonor means here. So we're not trying to hurt people. By the way, most people that are hurting you are doing it because, we didn't even talk about the 2-year-old, but this is a good example to bring that up. Quite often when we dishonor people, what we're doing is just living in our Gehenna, and everything is frustrating us and disappointing us and making us unhappy. So when things happen to create more calamity in our life, we can treat people very poorly. And everybody generally that does that to you in your mind, that's done that to you, is doing this. They're in their Gehenna, and you are just an annoyance to them, regardless of what you may be. And the way we kind of expressed that earlier before the video is a 2-year-old that spills milk, like don't cry over spilled milk. A 2-year-old that spills milk. Well, the 2-year-old doesn't know what a cup is or barely what milk is or what have you. But we can be so annoyed that we'll slap them and hurt them, which is dishonoring a person. And you had a wonderful way of looking at that. Another thing that it does is it clouds our wisdom when we're living in that Gehenna. How's that?
Yeah. Oh, you want me to explain? Yeah, I told Steve that, in my days when I was raising kids and being a single mom, and, if I, the pressure was on me, a lot of pressure. And if my 2-year-old spilled milk, I would get mad. That kid would probably get a slap on the hand. I don't know, but yeah, I would be completely outside of peace. And then after I would not be happy because I got mad, and I would start to think, oh well, that 2-year-old didn't know what they were doing. Why did I get mad at them? And I would start pointing the finger towards myself and saying, well, you shouldn't have given the child milk in a glass that could spill or in a cup that would spill. You should have given the child a full cup. And that would have been applying wisdom. But when you're not in peace, wisdom is out the door. You can't think. Wisdom is another subject we probably can cover in another video. But
peace comes first, and the wisdom comes later. And we all are living in and out of this, as we said. It says in Revelations, the door to the kingdom is never closed. So the contrast is always there. We can go in and out constantly all the time. But I hope this gave you some clarification of what we're talking about when we're talking about peace and love. It's agape, unconditional. For me, I got to a point where I just realized that I want that water. I don't want a fence anymore. I don't want to live in it anymore. It's the pearl of great price. And I've just started understanding that I'm not going to stop other people's actions. I can only become not offended by them. And I wanted the perfect peace. So I'm living in and out of it a bit, but for me anyways, and I think Sharon would say the same, I'm in the door far more than I'm out of it in my life right now. And I hope that you all are hearing this and applying it to your life so that happens with you as well. We've reached our 30-minute time, and I could go on and on like usual about this. Remember to hit the subscribe and the bell. And remember that we do truly love all of you. That's why we're doing this. We want this peace to go out to the rest of the consciousness out there. And there'll be more of it, because that's what it's all about. So until next time, have a great day. Lots of love to you.